Hey, what's going on, YouTube? What is up, people? Summer, man. This summer's gonna be a hot one. I'm already burning up. I'm in fucking Vegas. What you expect? But yeah, man, let's get on with this review. And in this video, I want to talk about this movie that I just heard about just the other week, like last week. I seen it like maybe a couple weeks ago, and I didn't even know about it until I saw it in I think it was IMDb post or something. But this movie's called In the Realm of the Senses. It's a Japanese movie from the 70s, 1976, I think. Um, and I heard a lot of very crazy things about this movie, and just the production alone. Like I heard that it was banned in every country once it was released. A lot of countries didn't want it to be shown at certain film festivals, and a lot of countries just straight up like banned it. Some of them banned it at first, and then they started showing it again. But some countries did like a lot of heavy cuts. Now there's a story about like how this movie holds the most record for the most screenings at the Cannes Film Festival. And the record is 13 screenings. So a lot of people wanted to see this movie. There was a lot of demand to see this movie at Cannes Film Festival. And this movie was like the main actress of this movie. Uh, Once this movie came out, she got a lot of like I guess we'll say death threats, and a lot of Japanese people were being really hostile to her. So she decided to move to France. She moved to France because I guess she couldn't take it anymore, and a lot of people were hating on her because she did the film of the stuff that the contents of this movie. Um, but yeah, this movie has a lot of controversial history behind it. Now I'm gonna tell you about a little bit, well, a little plot, a little bit about the story of the movie. The movie takes place in Japan in the 70s, and it's more of those like I would say where the time period is where the geishas was around, and it's more like a period piece. So like this movie is about this girl. Her name is Sada Abe, and I think she's a geisha, but she's one of those pay to play geishas, and she meets this guy, like, well, it's like one of her masters, and but I guess you could say one of her customers and stuff. And she, they do what needs to be done, but then she kind of starts developing this very crazy obsession over him, and it's more like a sexual obsession, but it could be like a romantic obsession, sexual obsession, whatever you want to call it. But pretty soon, she starts getting jealous because, like, this guy that she's in love with, he's like married, and at first it's like, oh well, she kind of cares about it, but then she doesn't really, she gets very possessive, and this movie is very for a movie that came out in the 70s is very weird. I mean, it's very weird because a lot of the stuff in here is very I would say experimental, and there are some things here that are very odd sexual behavior in this movie. Hmm. Now I could tell this movie tries to go in for the shock factor. It tries to shock you, but I felt a lot of it so over the top that I kind of found myself laughing, and not really. I wasn't really disturbed by this movie. There are some parts that were kind of disturbing, but all in all, by 70 standards, it was pretty tame. And like, if you watch this movie now, with all this other stuff going on, this torture porn and all these other crazier movies that are out, this movie, I don't know, it might get to some people, but I watched it with no problem. Didn't really shock me or disturb me. There is one scene in this movie though that I kind of did not see coming. It was kind of shocking. I don't want to spoil the scene, what I'm talking about. But other than that scene, it's very. It seems like it's a very, like I said, a very experimental movie. But you could say it's a more of an art house exploitation, Japanese exploitation, if you call it, if you want to call it that. But there is a lot of S and M. There's some S&M in this movie. There is sadism in this movie. Um, and frankly, I'm a little surprised that they kind of got away with putting what they did in the movie, the kind of risks they took, and the kind of lines they crossed, filming this movie, because this movie does kind of like cross some lines. Um, we're talking about like Japanese cinema, but the director, the director got a lot of grief for this. He got charged with obscenity, crime, but then the case got dragged on for like 4 years, and then nothing happened, and he got acquitted. But the director had a lot of hate because of this movie, and after I watched the movie, I was like, yeah, I can see why. But all in all, though, it was a good movie. It was okay. I only recommend this movie if you want to see something totally daring, totally different. There is very graphic porn scenes in here, or sexual scenes. Some people might confuse this with a porno, but it's not really a legit porno because there's a story here, and the graphic scenes are very few in between. So um, it's really just a movie that just dares to like go that extra, extra past that extra line. And the movie does come out, like I said, it comes off very comical at times, but very serious at times. And this movie has balls, man. Let me tell you, it does take some risks, um, and it does. It like the director of this movie. I think he just wanted to do what he wanted to do, and he didn't give a fuck, man. So you got to really give it to the director and the actors of this movie to really do what they did in here, because it really takes guts, man, and you gotta like have like this brave mentality. Um, but after watching this movie, I can see why it's banned, why some people don't like it. You know, this movie could be disturbing to some people, but I thought it was pretty tame compared to some of these other movies that I talked about on my channel. You know, a lot of the sexual scenes, perverted scenes in this movie, felt like they were not needed. They were just there just for the fuck of it. But I did get a feeling that this movie was, trying to do something different. But like I said, I would only recommend this movie if you guys are into the obscure, the exploitation, the experimental art house type movies. If you're a fan of that, if you're not a fan of that, you're just gonna dismiss this as some sick movie or whatever, um, or this isn't like an art house movie. But yeah, I'm sort of into that kind of genre, so that's why I decided to check it out. Do I recommend it? I recommend it for what it dares to put on screen, for what it dares to show. I mean, a lot of movies won't show these kind of things, even now. Even like in 2018, there's a lot of movies that try to be over the top, man, but they can't pull it off. It's very hard, and you got to give it to these people that worked on this movie. It was well done, though. It kept me watching. The movie's not that long too, so that was cool. But yeah, in the realm of the senses, glad I checked it out, and I recommend it if you guys want to see something different. Especially if you're a fan of the Japanese genre, old feudal Japan, where there was like geishas and all that. But yeah, I will try to survive this summer heat, and I will see you guys later. All right, peace.